So basically, the Telegraph has exposed a crazy, crazy, crazy lie.
The BBC claims to be the pinnacle of impartial reporting. But
they're lying. They're not. They're totally biased.
What if there was an internal dossier that revealed that wasn't the case?
I would believe it.
The Telegraph has seen a letter that reveals one of the BBC's own independent advisors repeatedly warned that the broadcaster had serious and systemic problems.
Uh-oh.
A week before the US election, BBC Panorama released a documentary called Trump: A Second Chance, and in it, they played the following clip.
Uh-oh.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's complete misinterpretation. Complete misrepresentation. Absolutely. Do you not remember watching this 3 minutes ago? Yeah, I am. It's spliced together. We watched a news report of this, but I figured I'd watch the original video since they were the ones that put it out originally. Yeah, of course I saw it.
Different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later.
It's narrative creation. Yep, there it is. BBC executives resigning.
That he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
It's so disgusting how they operate. It's obvious. They're parasites.
We fight like hell.
Now, it's true that a lot of people will still feel Trump's claims that in 2021 the election was stolen were entirely inappropriate and
I think they were inappropriate.
Of a figure in politics.
Yeah, it was bad.
But irrespective of your personal views on Trump, the question remains, how is a national...
If they were so inappropriate and so problematic, why do you need to create fan fiction in order to create the narrative for it? So, like, I have no problem saying that, like, yeah, Trump shouldn't have said the election was stolen and it was bullshit. Like, yeah, for sure. But, like, if that's the case and it's such a definitive thing, why are you making things up about it? Why don't you just simply show what the data is and show what actually happened? Rather than splicing it together in a way that's misleading.
Funded by taxpayers.
Twitter also deleted the clip of Trump when he called the protesters to go home. Now, in my opinion, how would I deal with this? Like, I think that people that do this should face serious repercussions. I do.
Premise that it will provide impartial reporting, allowed to splice together content in a way that one of its own advisors said materially misled viewers.
Absolutely, without a question. It was designed to mislead viewers.
And we're not even done yet. The footage Panorama showed of the Proud Boys marching towards the Capitol building, seemingly spurred on by Trump's rousing speech, well, that was actually taken before he'd even addressed the crowd. In fact, the BBC themselves later published a report.
See, it's all about framing. This is what they do. This is what they do.
At odds with Panorama's own timeline.
These are the Proud Boys, another right-wing militia, seen a little earlier that morning.
Out of your boy!
Donald Trump will not appear for another hour or so, but they're already heading towards the Capitol.
They even time-stamped the footage to show that the march began at 10:58 a.m., well before Trump's midday speech.
Right.
The true chronology raises serious questions about the way in which the BBC decided to portray the events of January the 6th. In fact, the memo highlights that shortly after the first extract of Trump's speech, the now president actually said,
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
The BBC...
Yeah, there it is. And this is the thing, is that January 6th obviously was bad, but I don't view January 6th as some kind of unique evil. whenever you have all of these retards running up and harassing ICE officers and stuff like that, you also have politicians saying that, oh, be peaceful, make your voice heard, etc. January 6th is just another version of that. It is. It was, and the Republicans did it once. The Democrat people do it every single week, multiple times. So that's what happens. The BBC are state-funded media, by the way. Yeah, I know. I know. Like, I don't think people understand how bad it really is.
The advisor who wrote this report claimed Panorama's editing was completely misleading.
Of course.
As Trump did not
Absolutely.
explicitly exhort supporters to go down and fight at Capitol Hill. They even pointed out that this was a key reason why he didn't face federal charges
That's
for
right.
incitement to riot. The BBC's Editorial Guidelines and Standards Committee member who wrote this memo raised all of these concerns,
Would he get fired?
among others, with the BBC executive, but they were dismissed, ignored, and even accused of cherry-picking. But this
See, that's the thing, is you can't go against them, because if they do, then they destroy your reputation and your career. That's what they do.
This isn't the first time we've seen the BBC
Yep.
criticised for selective editing. Cast your mind back to 2007, and you might remember a documentary trailer that appeared to show Queen Elizabeth II storming off in the middle of a photo shoot.
It will look better without the crown. I've heard it will look better, less dressy, because the garter robe is so extraordinary.
Dressy? What do you think this is?
What I mean is, if you take the crown off just for a couple frames.
Yeah, no. I'm not changing anything. I've done enough dressing like this. Thank you very much.
But it was later revealed the clips had been reversed, with the footage showing the late Queen storming off actually
Wow.
being the moment she first
Wow.
entered the room. And those seemingly cantankerous
So-
comments made during the photo shoot?
So different,
Well, they
yep.
were just some well-intentioned sarcasm.
Dressy? What
Yeah, they're laughing.
The Crown Gate scandal, as it was called at the time,
Uh-huh.
resulted in the resignation of Peter Fincham, the BBC One controller. Now, 18 years later, it appears the broadcaster has not learnt its lesson.
No, they're going to keep doing it, and the reason why they do it is they think their message is more important than the truth. So they are more focused around making sure that they spread their message and they push their agenda. That matters more to them than being able to actually tell the truth or represent things correctly. So to them, it might be confusing to you because you're like, well, why are they lying? Well, that's the reason why they're lying, is that they view the truth as downstream from their agenda and their message. So if the truth is conflicting with what the message is, then the truth is basically reinterpreted or misinterpreted in order to make it reinforce the message. The truth creates the message. Or sorry, the message creates the truth. The truth does not create the message. That's their value system.
The letter...
That's 99% of all mainstream media, not BBC. Oh, I know. I know. If it was up to me, well, I'll stop myself right there.
states, if BBC journalists are to be allowed to edit video in order to make people say things they
Yes.
never actually said, then what value are the corporation's guidelines? Why should the BBC be trusted?
The guidelines are created in order to control people who they disagree with. Every rule is a weapon.
And where will this all end?
It will never end. It will never end. And that's why you need to have oversight.
Remember, those aren't my words. They're the words of someone who sat on the Editorial Standards Committee.
Yep.
Should Tim Davie, the now Director General, face the same level of accountability that Peter Fincham did in 2007?
Worse. Should do worse.
Well, that remains for the BBC to decide. But if members of its own
And then figuring out inside, look at all the internal communication, figure out the people that were okay with it all the way down the line, fire every single one of them, and tell them that they're lucky it's not worse. That's what I would do.
Editorial Standards Committee have no faith in the broadcaster, you
Yep.
have to ask, should we?
No, you should never. Never. They are absolutely against the people. They are working against them 100%. But it does seem like they have issued an apology. This is it. It's happened.
The letter that has been published by the BBC chairman, Samir. Shah. It has been published on the Culture, Media and Sport website, and we have it up for you here, where he has written to the chair of the Culture, Media and Sport Committee, wanting to put on record the BBC's position on a number of issues that have been raised in the leak of a letter to the BBC board from Michael Prescott, a former external advisor to the BBC's editorial guidelines and standards committee.
Yeah, of course.
He also wants to address questions that you asked me in the letter, and he said he wants to make
two BBC people have already resigned over this. Good.
Clear that they have taken Mr. Prescott's concerns seriously and considered the points he made carefully. They have met the board to discuss this. He said it is worth stating at the outset that some of the coverage of Mr. Prescott's memo has implied that he has
The reason why it takes so long for people to fact check stuff like this is because there's an intentionally created media apparatus that exists for the purpose of misleading you and creating a false reality in order to make you believe something that isn't true. That's the reason why. It's the same reason why when a games journalist brings up an issue with diversity or any DEI stuff, they are immediately met with hate and harassment from people inside of their field, because it's supposed to create a chilling effect inside of the space where nobody is allowed to talk about these topics. That's the reason why it happens, is that you have a propaganda apparatus that is voluntarily opted into, and for the people who don't opt into it, they are pushed out of the apparatus. So that's the reason why it happens.
Covered a list of stories and issues that the BBC have sought to bury. That interpretation,
it's again what I said before about like the message being more important than the truth.
The issues raised by Mr. Prescott are precisely the issues that are being considered by the EGSC and the board. The EGSC is the senior forum in which we scrutinise BBC output when concerns have been raised from either internal or external sources. And
they're quick to arrest their own citizens for offensive speech, but they won't take any action on big media corporations outputting fake news. Yep. I find that very interesting.
Determine what action needs to be taken. Put simply, the committee's job is to examine the bad news, not the good news. Sometimes the mistakes are one-offs, others may point to underlying problems. The job is never complete.
What?
It is only by identifying and highlighting these issues and implementing changes that the BBC demonstrates its commitment to continuous
you never trust these
improvement. Now, he then says another view that has gained currency in the coverage, the BBC has done nothing to tackle these problems. This is simply not true, he says, as well.
Oh, that's true. They have done things to tackle them. They've tried to suppress them as much as possible. By tackling them, you mean taking the problem and then minimizing it as much as possible so people can't see it. Yes, true.
Over the 3 years that Mr. Prescott was an advisor, he says the BBC has published corrections when we've got things wrong. They've changed editorial guidance to make the BBC's position clearer on issues and made changes to leadership where the problems point to underlying issues and carried out formal disciplinary
this building does suck.
measures.
This building looks like somebody who's just really bad at playing Tetris. That's it. Looks so bad.
During the 3 years Mr. Prescott was an advisor to the committee, the BBC produced thousands of hours of outstanding journalism on television, radio, online, nationally, regionally and internationally. This does not diminish the importance the BBC board places on addressing the issues that Mr. Prescott has raised.
Yeah, they're lying.
But it is also important that a sense of perspective is maintained.
Yeah, there's the lies that we know about and there's the lies that we don't know about.
So just to point out to you that what we are reading out to you now is the BBC chair, Samir Shah. This is the letter that I have right now from him that we have just seen in the past minute or so to the chair of the Culture, Media and Sport Committee. And also to remind you in context, the BBC Director General Tim Davie and CEO of News Deborah Turnus both resigned on Sunday after a leaked memo that criticised a 2024 Panorama programme made by an outside production company about the US president, where they edited together two parts of a speech.
I'll believe that they care about this kind of stuff whenever you start seeing people getting prosecuted for election interference. That's whenever I'll be like, okay, all right, now they're taking it seriously. Until I see Old Testament answers, everything is a lie.
president made, so that it appeared
was the
that
accountability?
he explicitly encouraged the Capitol Hill riots back in January 2021.
America should start doing that first. I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Other things have been criticised in that memo as well. But here is a reaction that we have been getting now from Samir Shah that I am bringing to you. It's long. I'm trying to take you through the details and bring you the key lines.
It's just bullshit.
As I see them.
This is just literally them talking. It's just so fucking boring. I can't watch this anymore. But yeah, there we go. We've seen it. This is obviously what happened. And now they are apologizing. Big fucking surprise.
There are some
is there any more of this? Yeah, this is the whole thing.
Of some pretty senior named individuals throughout this. We're working through this in real time, Katie. But you know, there's some quite kind of strong views as to how things went wrong from the chairman's perspective.
Well, they went wrong because you have people with biases that are trying to put them into the media. That's the reason why. It's obviously why. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, for them to have tried to defend this edit.
Liberals just lost their January 6th argument, I guess. They never had one. I mean, January 6th was really bad, but it's obvious that if anybody has been paying attention for the last year, the overwhelming majority of, you know, collective political unrest has been by left-wing people. And this has been at the same time as a ton of extra violence, people burning up Teslas, people destroying property, people attacking ICE agents, everything like this. And they're the ones who basically have ownership over this problem. Now, obviously, like, there have been right-wing bad actors too, but if you're talking about collective violence and collective problems, you have BLM, you've had the Tesla burnings, and now you're having the ICE crash outs, and these are all left-wing things. When Elon Musk went and called Donald Trump, or implied that he was a pedo in the Epstein files, not a single Republican went out and started burning random Teslas and destroying them at dealerships. This is a Democrat problem, and the reason why it is a Democrat problem is because they have convinced themselves that they are fighting against Nazis. They've convinced themselves they are fighting against, fascism, and this is some kind of existential threat that basically the ends justify the means. Anything bad that they do is totally justified because it serves a greater goal of getting rid of something that they view as problem. Yes, the Democrat. This is I think it is a unique Democrat problem. Now, when a Republican does something bad, here's the big difference, right? It's not that Republicans don't do anything bad, but when a Republican does something bad, everybody generally says, oh, okay, that's really bad. But the problem is that Democrats look to try to, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't matter that much. Who cares? And I think that has radicalized a lot of people. And I'll view that, and we can contrast this now with, do you remember whenever they had all those text message leaks and it was all those young Republican people talking about how much they liked Hitler? And nobody really cared about that anymore. And the reason why, it's because left-wing people have established basically a standard, and now right-wing people are living up to it. So you have all these conservatives that are saying this crazy stuff, and there's never a point of moral authority that, any liberal can have when you're the one justifying, shutting down a college, or you're the one justifying being violent to an officer, or you're the one justifying, destroying property, somebody's car, something like that. They all got blacklisted and fired from their jobs. Yes, but I understand that structurally, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happened to them. What matters is how the public perceives it. And I think that this is continuing to become the case. I think that any conservative at this point should totally stop purity testing, because left-wing people don't purity test themselves. And if you allow other people to create the optics for you, all you're doing is you're allowing your enemy to define how you lose. And basically, you can see how they had no problem voting for Jay Jones, right? This is a guy that fantasized about killing, his political opponent's children. Well, if you're going to vote for that person and you're not going to have people withdraw their nominations from them, well, then I don't want to hear from you about how bad it is that somebody said something bad in a group chat. You've just lost all of your right to be able to be any sort of moral authority on this topic, period. It's total bullshit.
particular. I mean, the
That's
thing
what I
that
think.
has enraged people so much over the last few days is how there is any justification for an edit where you take a speech where one section was at the start of the speech and it was sort of sandwiched together with something that was from 15 minutes later in the speech. I mean, with any sort of journalistic newsroom, few would kind of the thought that is formed.
It's disgraceful. And I think that, again, it's election interference. It is it's disgusting. You shouldn't be doing this, right? It's definitely not just a Democrat, probably more of a lapse of morals with society and people. I'm not arguing that it's not mostly left-wing, but I don't think it's specifically that. I think that right now it is. I think that in the future it will also be right-wing. Like, I think this is a pendulum, and right now there's a lot of left-wing political violence because they feel like they're justified to do it. I don't think that they have a monopoly on that, like, categorically by the nature of them being left-wing people. I don't think that at all. But what I do think is that a lot of left-wing people do justify that type of behavior. And so you're right. And it will always swing. Yes, it will swing and it will change again.